Hello and welcome to this month's webinar. We'll be looking at a WordPress, in fact doing a WordPress walkthrough. It's one I've already done, but WordPress has changed a little bit since I did it, 2 years ago? So I thought it'd be worth doing it again. And we're going to be doing everything really from the beginning, from taking a blank, pretty much out of the box WordPress installation, logging in, creating pages, posting articles, and diving into all the settings and stuff like that. I think it's really useful, whether you know WordPress well or you're new to WordPress. I think you'll all equally find this really useful. Some related webinars I think would be good follow-ons for this are the WooCommerce walkthrough that I did recently, not that long ago, walking through a plugin that goes into WordPress and enables a WordPress website to become a full e-commerce store. That's the default plugin that we use to make e-commerce stores. It's quite extensive, and basically I go through everything in there, full walkthrough, from adding products to setting it all up and setting all the payments and products up, everything really. Also related, which might be interesting, is my blogging strategy. Now this is one that's ripe for redoing as well, because this was probably it's just before this one 2 years ago. So I think we'll be looking at this again. But the content still holds true. I mean, I'm basically looking at how to create a blogging and content strategy. There's a few other ideas and things that I now include in my presentations that I'll update this one at some point next year. But there's some great stuff that's worth revisiting in relation to a website. Okay, got a few people on. So hello, everyone who's here live. Otherwise, hello to everyone who's watching the recording. My name is Ben Kinnaird. I've almost got the same check shirt on. It's getting cold again, so I'm actually having to start wearing thicker clothes and something with a bit more heft to it than the t-shirts I normally wear. Anyway, hello. Nice to see you all. Some of you who know me, some don't. I'm Ben. I work for Rather Inventive. In fact, I was the founder of Rather Inventive back in 2009. And we help people with marketing, website development, Google Ads, social media, and work with a variety of other friends. And within Rather Inventive, Chris, who helps, he's very much our SEO nerd. Jack, who really understands social, and there's so many different social platforms out there that I just can't possibly be involved in all of them. So Jack certainly helps on that front. He's got some great webinars as well. Through to Catherine, we've worked with, and you've seen her on here a few times. But I'll be presenting this particular one because it's in my domain. It's in WordPress. So this is an area I know very well. Just a little about the club. We have one of these webinars every single month. And don't worry if you miss it. You can always go back and watch every single one since the word dot. Basically, 3 years ago now, I started producing these, and we've got a variety of ones that are from walkthroughs like this, where we go through a particular app or an online website, and we go through it from the beginning all the way through the sort of the things you'll want to do with that app, all the way through to concepts. I've had guests on, and we're constantly trying different ideas out. In fact, I'm looking to next year try something maybe a little bit different, where we might be having more guests coming on and bringing their expertise or ideas, whether they're companies or they've developed software, or they've got some kind of angle on marketing that will be useful for you. I'm not entirely sure exactly what that's going to be yet, and I'm still exploring various different ideas. But if you know anyone who is developing a software product, or is it doing interesting things in the marketing space, or even as a company, they are just doing great stuff with marketing, let them know. I'd like to hear from them. And if that's you, get in touch. If you've got any friends who you think would be like to join this club, just send me an email, copy me in, and we can get them a free trial, and they can come on the next one and see what it's like. And just to remind you, one of the things I love doing is learning while I am doing something else. I've been doing a lot of work on house recently, and podcasts are great for that because I can get on with my job. I'm not distracted by what I'm doing. I can still get on, but I can listen and learn at the same time. So we've got an audio version of all of these webinars, which you can gain access. If you go into the club, you can find out how to access the podcast there. If not, give me an email and I'll help you through it. Okay, let's take a step back first. Why WordPress? Why have we as a company settled on WordPress? Well, many reasons. I mean, WordPress is used by a lot of people. It's free to get started. It's incredibly flexible. I mean, you can do your own programming down to using PHP, writing your own scripts and inserting them, which is why I like it. But even if you aren't into scripting or programming, you can just get plugins, either paid or mostly free, actually, that really extend the functionality of WordPress. So when you have a self-managed version, which means that you host it yourself, you actually download all the files from WordPress.org, host them on a service like 34SP, or we can do that for you as well. And then you have ultimate and complete flexibility, and over all of that code, you can do what you like with it. And that's why I like it so much. It's very flexible and it's a good base. It's not perfect by any means. There's lots of things that I would like to tweak in it, but broadly speaking, out of all the other content management systems I've used, it's pretty good. Now, when I last did this 2 years ago, WordPress had just introduced a block editor called Gutenberg, or codename Gutenberg at the time. And because WordPress was had a very old interface where you could type text, maybe make it bold, underline, make links and so on, but there was no layout, there's no formatting. It was very difficult really to get anything designed in WordPress unless you knew a bit of HTML. So websites like Shopify for e-commerce, Squarespace, and certainly Wix and Weebly, well, they all definitely have their own failings. Their interfaces for building were much more visual, so people started moving to those. And that's why 2 years ago, WordPress really made a huge change to improve the editor, the layout system of that of WordPress, because it was the biggest area that was failing. It was failing it really. So that's come along quite a long way. So I thought it was time that we redo this webinar, because things will have changed. So if people follow my old one, it's not quite going to look the same. The other reason I like WordPress, and we recommend it for every single client, is that you've got the best control over SEO. I mean, the number of people I've spoken to who've got a Squarespace site or a Shopify site, and they are great. They're really good. But you reach a point, certainly when it comes to optimizing for search, where you can't go further. There's certain recommendations that we would make, that's me and Chris would make, but you can't go any further. WordPress has no limits like that. Certainly when it comes to programming, we can tweak and do whatever we want. Anyway, more on WordPress. So WordPress powers over 40% now of the world's websites. I think when I last looked at this, it was 33%. Now it's something like 42%. So a lot of websites use WordPress generally in various different forms. They could be almost out of the box as a blog, or completely customized, like some of the big names on here, these global brands who use it, like Facebook, Disney, and so on. I mean, in fact, I know Facebook use a very highly customized version of WordPress for all of their business pages, the business side of it. They obviously don't use it for Facebook, but all of the business side of it. In fact, so much so they have a support contract directly with WordPress, who help program it for them. I also like WordPress personally because it's got a very active community. There are lots of groups around the country of fellow pressers, as they're called, people who are interested in using WordPress, whether that be a PHP developer, a graphic designer, or someone using it, or an SEO nerd. All the different people who are involved in a WordPress and web development. There are different communities for that, all surrounding WordPress. There are conferences, there's tons of information online, very easy to find developers. So really with WordPress, it's a platform that you won't be stuck with. And that's why I love recommending it to people, because we know it intimately. But if for some reason someone wanted to move away from us and work with another company or develop it themselves, there are tons of developers and tons of resources out there. So we don't feel that people are locked in. But let's crack on. Let's not waste any time and get on with the screen share. So I'm going to run through pretty much what I did before, and with a few extra nuggets in there and a few extra questions that I've had over the years, and some basic things that people want to know. So let's dive in. Okay. So when you're presented with WordPress, the first thing you see once you get it up and running is probably going to be something like this. It's the standard theme of the moment. WordPress change their themes every year. This is the current one. I think it's called 2021 or 2022. I can't remember. It's based on the year, but it seems a year behind. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's the latest theme. So the first thing we want to do, though, is show you how to log in, because that's often something that stumps people. The easiest thing to do is to go up into the URL at the top and type /wp-admin. That takes you straight to the login page. There may be variations to that depending on how it's being hosted. I know that this website's hosted in a slightly different way, but most of our sites are hosted on /wp/wp-admin. But for most people, if you just type that in, /wp-admin, you will get to this screen where you log in. And you can type in your username, either username being presented or just your email address if you don't know it, and your password. However, a lot of people forget their passwords. And I know it's like you're busy, you don't know what your password is, you typed in when you set it up and you've completely forgotten it, you haven't made a note of it. That's fine, don't worry. All you need to do is go down the bottom and click on lost your password. Then you put in your email address. Here's mine, here's our support one. You put that in, you will be sent a message where you can reset your password. It's super easy. But what we're going to do is log in. So, I've already logged in before. Let me quit out of that. There we go. If I log in, and that's it, enter my details and click login. But I'll do it again because I did it so quickly. So we get to the login screen, enter my details, and I click login. Now, if I'm coming back to the site time and time again, I can click remember me, and it means I'm not going to have to log in every single time. It's just saving a little cookie on my computer just so it knows it's me. Okay, so now we're in the main dashboard of the website. You know what I've done? I've gone to the wrong one. I've gone to my, this WordPress installation is a, what you would call a WordPress network. So it's one WordPress installation with lots of different WordPress sites within it. And I've logged into our main one. So what I'm going to do is just log out of that and just actually go back to the yellow jumper one. There we go. And log into that. Now it's really useful for me because I can have many of our clients actually running on this system, and it's really useful because we can have one system. It's easier to maintain, and I can dive in and out of those more quickly. But for a lot of our clients, they are completely separate. The details of which are not relevant for this particular workshop, but if you're interested and you do want to install your own WordPress installation, let me know and I can go through which is right for you. So let me log into this. There we go. That makes more sense. Okay, so the first thing you see when you log in is the dashboard. That's the very first page. And generally, it's going to give you any information on problems under site health. It's going to tell you how many posts you've had, just some basic stats. There is a little feed here saying what's been published. Maybe if you've got a big site, there are other people contributing to this site, then you can see which articles have been published here. And this really stems from WordPress coming from a blogging perspective. That's where it started, and that's how it's always presented, as mainly for blogging. So you would set it up, and you can just write post after post, and they get displayed on the screen. But over its development, it's really expanded out to allow it to be develop full-blown websites. Other things on here you can write a quick draft. If you've just got an idea for a blog post, you can type into the quick draft area. Or if you're particularly interested in WordPress events and things that are going on, then they've got a little news feed here. But to be honest, I don't spend a huge amount of time on the dashboard. So let's look on the left-hand side. With WordPress, generally always, not quite always, in some plugins change this, but generally your navigation for all of the different pages within the admin is available on the left-hand side. I'll just quickly run through those. First, we've got posts, which you might see as blogs or articles. So that's where any sort of regular content that you're adding will be added in there. This is just the default install. So we've got the basic one, which is always Hello World, but all of your blog posts will be shown there. who's written it, what category it's in. And then we've got pages. In fact, I just skip media. I'll come back to media, which is where all of your images and videos are stored, PDFs, whatever you've uploaded. And then we've got pages. So any main page content on your site will be stored in here. Again, this is just a sample page at the moment. Then we've also got comments. Now these relate specifically to blog articles. So if anyone writes a comment on your blog article, then this will get shown here. It gives you an opportunity to approve or spam it if it is. Often you get a lot of spam, and that's another issue which I'm not going to dive into here. But if your site's getting a lot of spam through comments, then you want to look at enabling the Askimet plugin. You need to go through a very simple process to do that, and it's free for non-commercial use, and then that will get rid of any spam for you. Generally speaking, I don't use comments on our websites for most websites that we do. So I actually developed a plugin to get rid of that comments completely, because otherwise it's just another avenue for spam. So generally, you wouldn't normally see this on here. Then we've got appearance. So things under here are where you can change the theme, where you can customize the theme, where you can add widgets. Widgets I'll come back to, but basically they're a way of adding content into certain places in the template. So in a template, in the theme, they're predefined. So you can have a few in the header, you can have some on a sidebar, some in the footer, on different pages. You can have these widgets in here. You can define what goes on those. I'll explain more a little later and it will make more sense. You can set the menus and any background image, but I'll show you that in customization. Further on down, we've got plugins. Let's just have a quick look in there. And in fact, here's my disabled comments plugin. So let's just activate that. And you can see that comments has disappeared here. Now, your WordPress install is going to have a limited set of plugins to begin with. Because this is part of my WordPress network, I've got lots of plugins that we use for different sites on here. So you won't see all of these. I think the main ones you see are one called Hello Dolly, one called Askimet Anti-Spam, and I think that's it. I actually can't remember what the default set of plugins is. But basically, all you need to do is click on plugins, and then you can either add new ones into it, which normally you would have an add button here, and you can upload a plugin, but because it's a WordPress network, people aren't allowed to do that. And then when you're ready to run it, you just activate it. If you don't want to run it anymore, you do deactivate it. You can see I deactivate the comments and it comes back. But let's leave that on. Some of these plugins also have settings in some cases. Let me see if I can find one. So here we are, Smush. Now, Smush I'm running as default on all websites. And Smush is a really useful plugin for optimizing images. I'm not going to go into it too much, but it's a free plugin. And it will compress down images just to make them a little bit smaller and a little bit faster. It also does something called lazy loading, which makes the speed of the site feel faster. And these are all things that we need to do to optimize for users, so they have an improved experience when they're looking at the site, but also SEO. So let's move on to users. We've only got one user in here, which is super admin. That's me. But obviously, if you've got a site with more people, you'll find them in here. I'll go through this in a bit later, and we'll go through the profile. In fact, changing the password, which is what most people want to do. We've got a tool section. Mostly, there's not a huge amount that you'd want to go in there, really. Certainly not on this particular site. But as you add plugins, you may find that they put their options panels in here. The most useful thing would be to export information. If you want to transfer your WordPress site from one to another, one of the best ways to do that is through the export and import tool. So you can click on export and basically download everything. And you'll get a little file with everything in it but the images. And then you go over to a new WordPress install, and then you can import that in using this WordPress importer. And it's going to bring everything in, and then it's going to try and fetch all the images from your old site. It's really useful way of moving a site from one place to another. You've also got some personal data erasure and management here. It's probably more important when you're letting people register on your site. So you're letting people actively contribute, the public contribute, or you've got a WooCommerce site or some form of site where you are actively taking people's emails and they're being stored on here. Finally, we've got settings. So actually, there's one thing we do want to do in here, which is just check the time and location. So a few things here. Here's the site title, Yellow Jumper Accountants. That's going to be our example company for the time being. We've also got a tagline that's default in this. It'll usually be just another WordPress site, or just another rather inventive site in this case. The admin email address. Now, this is important. By default, any notifications, any problems, any errors with the site, or sometimes plugins use this if they've got a problem or they have messages they need to send you, they'll send it to this email address. So make sure that is an email you have access to. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on any problems as they come through. So let's just check the site language is UK, which is fine. The time zone is UTC, which is Universal Time. And I can actually see that that is out by an hour, which it generally is, because we're in daylight savings at the moment. So I'm going to change that back to +1. Brilliant. And everything else looks fine. So if I save that, we can then check that local time is actually 1:21, which is near enough. The importance of this is more going to be when you've got some kind of transactions, or you've got forms being collected, and where you rely on that data stamp being accurate. Otherwise, it's always going to be an hour out. Everything else on there looks fine. Let's just quickly look through the others. So let's go to writing. Just wait for the options to load. So this is if you are writing blog posts, you can set what the default category is. We've only got one called uncategorized, which will be changing soon enough. So we'll leave that as it is. And the default post format. So when you, I don't really use these, but the theme that you have will allow you to often change the style of the post. So we can see there's lots of different ones here. Maybe you've got a full-on blog post, in which case leave it standard. Maybe you've got a link to someone else's page, and maybe you've got a quote on there, so you can set it as link. And this will just allow you to change how they look when they're rendered out to the user. I would leave the default as standard, and you can change that on a post-by-post basis. But it will depend on your theme as to how much how relevant that is. Let's go to reading. So this will need to change later. By default, as I said, WordPress is a blogging system, so it's going to show your latest posts. As we go through it, we're going to set up a home page and we're going to set up a blog page. So we'll need to set those statically, which we'll do below, but we've got to set everything else up first. How many blog posts to show? Leave all this as default, that's fine. We want to show the full text in the RSS feed. I won't go into what an RSS feed is, but if other sites like news engines and other crawlers on the web want to look at your blog, or you're using an RSS feeder to read news on a daily basis, then this is what this section will output to that RSS feed. And you can say, do you want to include the full text of the blog post or just the excerpt? And finally, this is very important, search engine visibility. This section here will, if you're developing a site, what you don't want to do is allow all of the content on that site to be searchable by a search engine until you are ready. So you tick that box, and when it goes live, you untick that box. Make sure you untick that box when it goes live, because I have had people who don't, and their site doesn't get indexed, and they wonder why they're not being found. So we'll save those. Media, this is just saying how big the media sizes are. You can change these if you want, but I'd leave them as your theme default unless you know what you're doing. Permalinks, generally there's not a lot to do here. The only thing I would do is, depending on how you're setting up your site, I like to have all blog posts to be under the blog page. So what I tend to do is I use a structure where we want it to be the website /blog/ and the actual name of the article. It just looks neater. So I've just set that, but you can leave yours as default and it'll be absolutely fine. It will operate correctly. This is just making them look how I want. So we'll save that. Okay, let's go and choose a theme and do some basic theme setup. So I'm going to go to themes here, and we've got a few. You might have more in your particular setup, and you can usually search for more themes up here. It won't work the same in this one because this is a WordPress network one, and I can dictate which themes people see. So we've got 2021, there we are. I knew it was quite a simple naming. That's the one we're on. 2020, that was last year's, but we're going to use our Inventive version 3.1. So let's activate, in fact, go live preview of this one first. If I click live preview, I can see what our site and our content is going to look like first. Once I'm happy, I can then publish it. So I think that looks pretty good. What I'm going to do is just add a logo into that. So I'm going to look in my media library, and I pre-uploaded some things here. I'm just going to choose this as a default logo. I don't actually have a made-up logo for them yet, so I'll just use my dummy icon. Yeah, in this particular theme, it's asking for cropping, so I'm going to just skip that cropping. I think it's fine. Now you can see the title has been replaced by an icon. And I'm also going to, because my made-up accountancy firm are QuickBooks specialists, I'm going to put this as the subtitle. That's great. That'll do for now. Let's activate and publish that and go and have a look at our site live. So I'm going to click back out of this, click back on the top. There's our site, nice and simple. Let's start adding some pages in. So the easiest way to do is go to Customize. So we go to Customize and we go to Menus. What I'm going to do is create a new menu, and I'm going to call this a main menu. You can obviously have multiple menus. In this particular theme, we can have slots for primary and secondary. I'm going to set this a primary menu because it's our main one. And then I'm going to add some pages to this. So I'm going to add, I want a home link. Yeah, definitely. And then we are going to have what other pages? We need an about page. We need a blog page. And we need a contact page. This is a process I use when building websites because it's actually quite nice just to go through the client and set up not only the sitemap, but it creates these pages for me, so it actually saves some time and it adds them into the menu. So that's great. Home, about, blog, contact, brilliant. That's good. Everything else is set on here. You can see that we can add, if we've got other different additional posts or categories, or if you've got WooCommerce enabled, you can add in lots more things into the menu, including custom links to other places. But for now, we'll keep it quite simple. It's looking a bit boring, isn't it? So let's change some colors. Now in our theme, we've got this color section here, and I'm going to change the header to be a nice yellow yellow color because we're yellow jumper accountants. So I click on header color and pop that in there. Lovely. I actually picked that from the jumper you're going to see in a minute. So that's that. Maybe we want our default link color. I like a blue link color generally, so I'm going to just make that a little bit darker. There we go. Lovely. And you can change other things like we can change the footer. We can make a dark gray. There's nothing in the footer, so nothing to see at the moment, but I'm going to leave that as it is. I could even change the whole body color and just make that a slight gray. Let's do that. Yeah, that looks nice. Lovely. Okay, so let's go back out of there. What else do we need to set up? I need to go to theme options. This is particular to our theme, and there's just lots of different options that allow you to toggle things on and off. So I'm just going to flick through them. General layout, yeah, I'm happy with this. Medium size, yeah, no problem. Let's keep the logo in the center, but we could have it on the left as well. But I'll keep it in the center. Show submenu on mobile. No, we don't want that. I don't think we'll have a submenu anyway, but I generally don't need that. Page layout. Okay, so this is where widgets start coming into play. Now, we can't see any at the moment, but there are widgets that normally would sit in a sidebar panel. Now, we can say when that sidebar panel is on the left, right, or at the bottom. Now, generally on pages, I don't want any sidebars, so I'm just going to put that at the bottom. So if we do have any widgets in there, they will always show right at the bottom. And I do want page headings to show. That's fine. Post layout, pretty much the same. With posts, do I want to show the author? Let's say not, because we all work as a team, so that doesn't matter, so I can disable that. Post date, yes, we do that, want that. Category, yeah, we'll leave category in. And post sidebar position, yeah, we'll keep that in as well. Length of excerpt just goes to show if you've got lots of blog posts and they're quite long, if you can put a word count in there, and it means it will clip the blog posts when you're looking at a big list of them by the amount of words you put in here. Generally speaking, 0 means it's going to show everything, but if you put 10, it's going to show 10 words. Font, let's make it a medium size, which I think it was already, and then I'm going to set Georgia as the main font for both the body and the heading. I can actually put in custom Google fonts here if I put their specific names in, but I'm just going to leave it as a standard system font for now. And then features, do we want a sticky header or not? No. So sticky header means it's just going to stay at the top of the screen when people scroll up and down. For this site, we don't want that. And you've probably seen different icons people use for social media or other various things throughout their website. We use a font, we use like an icon set called Font Awesome. And you've got a choice of the version 4 or version 5. Generally speaking, that's something we would sort out for people. But if you know what you're doing, then you can turn that on and say, yeah, I want to use these particular sets. The reason you'd want to disable that is if you're not using any icons, you don't want them loading, because it takes it slows things down a little bit because it's got to load some extra stuff in. So we don't want that. Okay, that's good. So there are the theme options. Now we've done the menu. I'm going to move on to widgets. Now these are the widgets that appear in different places. In this particular theme, we've got heading 1 that appears as a banner across the top. Heading 2 in this setup appears to the left of the icon. Heading 3 appears to the right. I'll just give you a quick example of that. If we go in, and for those of you new to actually WordPress, the block system that they've got throughout the site also works within the widgets as well, which is very useful because it means that you can get a lot more detail in there. So this is left. And this is right. If you want to add additional content in, that's where you could go. Maybe let's put a telephone number in there. So we'll have 0800 123 456. And let's go to the other header and we'll just put an email in there. So sales at Yellow Jumper Accountants. Very long domain name they've got there. In fact, what we'll just do is call them Yellow Jumper so it fits better. I'll even spell that correctly for you. Those who know me know my spelling is not the best. That's why it helps having this computers work with me. Okay, that's good. So we got an email on the left, and in header 2 widget, and on header 3 widget, we've got a telephone number. Great. Now we can do the same in the footer as well. What I'm going to do is just add in just a copyright message. So footer 4, I know, goes across the bottom, a bit like header 1. We'll put copyright 2021, and that's going to sit in there. Lovely. But I could use these other footers. Footer number 1 is on the left, footer number 2 is on the middle, and footer 3 is on the right. In fact, let me just show you what they do. So paragraph F1. F2. These are really useful areas for having a small about section, maybe having an additional menu, social media icons, telephone, contact details. Sometimes people have a mini form in there for email subscriptions. So there we go. So in fact, what I do if I'm actually mocking up a site, what we might do is put something like this in. So I put social icons, so I know that's what's going there. Maybe in the middle, we could have, in fact, I could put a menu in here. We put a navigation menu, and what I'm going to do, because I haven't saved it, I haven't got the menus, so I will leave, I'll take that off for the moment. And we'll just put menu. And then over here, about the company. That's really useful just to put placeholders in while you're developing a site so you know what's going to go where and not worry too much about getting all the content right to begin with. So that's my widgets for the moment. Because we're on the blog, let's have a look at the blog sidebar. Do I want anything in here? Yeah, I think let's have a category list. We've only got one category, which is uncategorized. That's fine for the moment. But as we get more of them will show there. And when people click on that category, they'll get taken to a page which shows all of the blog posts in that category. So that works for me. That's great. Let's go back here. Anything else I need to do? I think we are done on that. Great. So let's start diving in and adding some page content. So we publish that, must do that to save it. Oh, something else, little tip. If you want to see what your site looks like in different sizes, make sure it's mobile responsive, you can use these icons down the bottom. So you can see what it looks like in a portrait tablet or on a mobile phone. They're not perfect, but they give you a rough idea of what it looks like. Brilliant. So now let's go onto the home page and start adding some pages in. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard, pages, and I need to add in the home page. Now you'll notice that the home page was there, but that's a special link which always takes people to what is set as the home page. Now, as I said, by default, that is actually the blogging page that's going to show all the blogs, the latest blogs, but I'm going to change that in a minute. So we've got to set up the page. Let's call it home. And let's just have a look around this editor while we're here. Now you'll notice it's gone full screen. And that just helps people focus on writing their content. I don't like that. So I normally change it back to, I turn off full screen mode, but I'm going to leave full screen mode on so you can see how it works without distracting. You've also got other settings up in this dot menu. You can actually just edit code. So if you know your HTML, you can dive in. You can edit spotlight mode, which basically, as you're working through, it only shows the block you're working on, and various other things I won't dive into there. So let's start adding some of this content on. What do I want to do? I want to add in the main title. So I'm going to click on this plus icon, and then I'm going to look for heading, or I can type in heading. Paste. Now, because this is the main heading of the site, I'm actually going to change this to be heading 1. And then I'm going to put some content in, like that, which I pre-prepared earlier. We'll make this into a title. So if I click on the paragraph, I can change it to a heading. In fact, that's really useful. You can change headings to paragraphs or other styles of or other blocks very easily by clicking on their icon and then transforming it to something else. But I want that to be a heading. I want that to be a heading 2. Yeah, that works for me. And I actually want this to be a button. So I can't convert that, but what I can do is press enter, click on the block plus, and then type in buttons. You'll see my button is a nice blue color, so it's taken on that color from the link I set earlier. I put that into there. Great, that's looking good. Delete that. Now, where do we want people to go when they click the button? I think the contact page. So what we do is we click on the button, click on the link, and then in this little search bar, you can type in the name of the page you want to find. So if you start typing the first few letters, come up with contact, click on that, and that's set and ready to go. I have a few options. If I want to open it in a new tab, for instance, if it's a site that goes off to another site that's outside of this website, so it's another link outside of this website, then I can click open a new tab. But because it's on this site, I'll keep it in the same tab. Yeah, that looks good. And in fact, we need an image on here because we're called Yellow Jumper Accountants. So I'm going to put an image of a fella in a yellow jumper. So if you want to add anything, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can either just click near where you want to add, press return, and then click on the block here, the plus icon to select. Or you can click plus, and then you come up with a big search box and you can scroll through all the different things you can add here. I find this is great actually if you want to take your time and you're not really sure what you want. But this option is much quicker and simpler when you're in line, you're sort of writing as you go. So I'm going to click here. I can see image, click on image, and then I click media library. Now I haven't got any images in my media library that I want. So what I'm going to do is drag and drop from my desktop and the image I want to use. So that's going to upload it. It's also going to compress it with Smush and convert it into those, I think it's 3 or 4 different image sizes that we need to use. So basically it's getting all the images prepared and ready. So there's our image of the yellow jumper chap, and we insert that in. Yeah, that looks pretty good. In fact, let's move that to the top. I think it'll look a bit better at the top here. Yeah, nice. Now there's different ways you can have images. You can, in fact, there's a few settings I should show you first. You can either pick the image settings that it's pre-sized it into. So we've got the thumbnail size, which is always a square. And it's usually 150 pixels or 300 pixels in this case. And we've got medium, which is about 600 pixels, but the native aspect ratio, so the same sizing. Then we've got large, and then we've got full size, which is what you uploaded. Large is fine for me. It's important that you do set the right size, because you don't, if you upload a big 5 megabyte image, that's going to be too big for most people, and it's going to slow your page speed down. So you want to set the smallest size you can get away with. So this is fine here. You can also resize the image using these little balls and drag the size of the image here. You can also set how it displays. So is it left align? Is it center align? Or is it right align? Now you'll notice when I set those, the content is starting to creep in on the right-hand side. That's because the content actually wants to sort of zoom around it, depending on the size. But I'm going to leave it at, I'm going to just reset it to its normal size for the moment. The other way you can have images, let's click on the image again, is we can have them as a cover. Now this is really useful if you want to put images over the top, or text over the top, sorry. So I'm going to take this, the best accountants and scientists, to copy that and paste it in here, and then set that back as a title, as a heading 1, in the center. And we can either delete that by pressing the delete key, or we can go up to the little ... and go remove block, which we'll do. Yeah, that looks pretty swish, doesn't it? But hey, it looks a bit dark, so I'm not sure about that. So if I click on the cover object itself, just by clicking on that, I actually have a few settings. I can change where the main focus point is. Now I want to focus on his face here, and that makes sure that point is always in view. We can change how big that height is, so we can maybe set it to quite small, quite large. I'll leave it as default. We can also set the overlay color. You can either get rid of it, add more of it until it's completely black, or I can set our brand color, just add a little tint of yellow over the top. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. And the reason for the overlay is it helps make the text stand out more, so it's very important to have. That's good. Everything we've got in there is good. Have I got everything here? Oh yeah, there is something you can do. You can't do it with the cover here, but if I were to add another image, let's just add in that image again, just to show you an example. Maybe you've got something where it's quite important to label the image. So what you can actually do is add a caption to the image, and you pop it in there, and it just means that image is, when screen readers are reading a whole page, they know that caption is related to that particular image. So it's going to help people, it's going to help describe what's in that image. But we don't need that, so I'm going to take that out. Linked up my call to action, the button here, and we're ready to go. So I'm going to publish that. Oh, before I publish, you can actually save as a draft. So if you're writing something and you're not quite ready yet, you can save it as a draft. You can preview it, so you can see how it's going to look on the page before it actually gets published. but I'm going to go ahead and we'll publish that. I'm confident it's going to be good. It's saying, you sure? You can delay the publish and actually get it to publish on a certain date, which is quite useful for blog posts. Or we can just get it to go straight away, which it does. And then I can view the page. That's looking good. Let's set up some of our other pages. So let's go to About. And I'm going to, the quickest way to do this, now we're in the menu and it's all working, we can go to About, Edit Page. And what we're going to do is just put some text in there. That's my default text I'm using. I think that's all we need for the About page for the moment. It's just to show the page as a page. So update that. And then we can click. You see down the bottom, it gives us a little update notification. If we click on View Page there, it's going to take us straight back. We're going to skip blog post at the moment, go straight to Contact, Edit Page. And I've got some text I can copy in here. Paste. So I want that to be a bit bigger. Let's make it a nice title. Oh, not heading 3, heading 2. I'm going to make sure this is linked up. Now, WordPress will automatically recognize that that is an email address. So it puts the special code mail2: at the beginning to make sure it opens up an email program. But you can also do something similar with telephone numbers. So if I copy this text and add a link, I can put tel:. In fact, let me put that together like that. And then that makes a telephone link. So when someone clicks on it, it's going to activate the call feature on their phone or computer if they've got it activated. Let's put a picture of our place of work. In fact, what we'll do, we need to add a map in as well. So let's do a column. So what I'm going to do is use another quick code, actually, a little tip. If you want to create content blocks as you're editing without taking your hands off the keyboard, you can just press / on your keyboard and it's going to bring up the menu and then you can start typing. So I put column in and press enter. Now it gives me a choice of columns. Now what I'm going to do is set up a layout where I've got it 50-50, an image on the left and a map on the right. So I'm going to select 50-50. You can always change it at a later date by changing the width of the column here. You can also add more columns as well by highlighting somewhere in between two other columns and clicking add column. Let's click plus, image, and I actually want to upload an image directly. So I can, without going to the media library, I can drag and drop straight into that box and it's going to upload it for me. It normally uploads it for me. There we go. And it's uploaded the image and I go, our it is, that's the caption. And now I want to embed the map. Now I'm pretending, I'm just going to jump to another tab here. I'm pretending that these tax assist accountants are us. So I want to embed a map for us on the page. So I go roughly to the zoom level that I want to use, just roughly. Click on share. And this is just in Google Maps. Click on share, click on embed a map. Then I copy the HTML. Now, to actually add this into the page, I need to click add block. And I need a HTML block. And that allows me to copy and paste in the code. The only thing we need to do extra is you need to find the width, which is just here. So you'll see it says width equals, and then in quotes, a pixel count. So that is how big it is in pixels. I want it to be 100%. I'm going to change 600 to 100%. We'll leave the height as it is. That's fine for now. But you can obviously alter the height if you want. That's great. Let's preview that. Brilliant. Now, they're a bit mismatched. And if I was laying it out, I'd probably want them to be laid out evenly. I'm not going to bother doing that right now, but you could fiddle around with that. Let's close that. Go back to this. We'll save that, update it. And now that page is done. Okay, great. We're looking good. So let's set up everything else. We need to link the home page in, and we need to set up the blog. So let me go back to the main dashboard, click on the big WordPress icon in the top left. And we need to go to settings. And it's reading. So we come back to this page again. So we want our home page to display a static page, which is home. And we want the post page, where our blog articles are, to be blog. Now you just need to do that so WordPress knows basically how your site works and where those key pages are, because they're very important for WordPress to know where they are. Once we've got that, we can click Save. Brilliant. So let's go back to Yellow Jumper Accountants. And now you can see when I click on Home, our home page is the home page we created. And the blog page is the blog page. About and Contact. Brilliant. That works really well. Okay, a few more things we need to do into the blog. So let's go back to the dashboard. And what I want to do, let's go into posts and then go into categories. First thing I want to do is change that unsightly uncategorized into, let's just call it news. And this could be just general news that we have as an organization, stuff that's coming out. So update news, go back to categories, great. And I want to add another category, which I do on the left-hand side here, called tax. And you don't need to worry about the slug. What the slug is it's going to help create part of the URL. So it will automatically create a slug for you. And if you know what you're doing, you can type in your own slug there. If you don't, just leave it as it is. Click Add New Category. You can see it's created the slug as tax and lowercase as well. That's brilliant. So now what we're going to do is create another blog article. So we're going to go to All Posts. We can see we've got our Hello World one here, but we're going to create a new one by clicking the Add New button at the top. I'm going to give it a title. I've just got some text to copy and paste in here. 3 ways to save tax in 2019. Gosh, we need to update that, don't we? In the 3 ways. Now, because I want to make it look a bit nicer, I'm going to change these into titles, into headings, sorry. By default, they're all number 2, but I can change that. Let's put a bit more spacing between them. So add block, spacing. This is very useful, actually, the spacer block. Enables you to create a little bit more space between various blocks within the site, which is great for a layout perspective, but I'm just going to keep it at 50. A new one in there. I use them a lot, really, because there's nothing worse than having all of your text cramped up together. It makes it very difficult to read. That looks good. If I click on categories on the right-hand side, I can set it in the tax category because that's what it's relevant to. Let's have a quick look at the features on the right-hand side here, because these are very relevant to posts. We've got whether it's stuck to the top of the blog. So if you click on that, it will always stay at the top. So if you've got a really good article that you want people to keep seeing, rather than it sort of shuffling down as you add new items, you can stick to the top of the blog, and it's always going to be seen until you unstick it. You can change the publish time. So we can say, actually, let's publish this in a couple of days' time. I'm going to reset that back to normal because I want it published immediately. And we look at permalink here. This will be the link it creates because it's not saved. It's not actually created a permalink yet, but once it saves, it will create one that looks right. So we'll have a look at that in a minute. Then we can add tags, which are a bit like categories, but they're completely free form. So you can add whatever tag you like. I tend to use categories as the main way to group posts together. And if people do use tags, I don't tend to, but if people use tags, it's just the detail within that post. It's much more information and detail. And it just helps classification and categorization when you're trying to find things later on. But to be honest, I don't use tags a huge amount. We could have a featured image as well. So I'm just going to use one of my dummy images in here. So that's the image that's going to appear as a little icon whenever that blog page is referenced, but it's also going to appear at the top. We can have an excerpt, which is a small version. So your best tax saving tips. So that's this will show when we need a short version of the text. I'm going to make it a bit longer with some extra text in there just at the end. and discussion is relevant here. So let's publish that save straight away. Obviously, we've got save, preview, and publish exactly the same as on pages. That's good. And now we can view it. Great. And if we go to the blog page, you can see we've got two articles there now. We've got a tax article, we've got Hello World, we've got the excerpt showing for this one, but that's actually showing the main content. And as we set up previously, we've got our categories showing on the right here. So we can see which are in news, which is Hello World, and which are in tax, which is the one we've just done. Okay, I mean, that's basically the gist of WordPress. It's fairly straightforward. It gets a lot more nuance when you want to lay different things out. So for example, let's go back into the contact page here. In fact, actually, about page. If we want to add in video, which is a question I get asked a lot, actually, the easiest way to do that is just to paste the link in, especially if it's a YouTube link. So if I just press enter here, it goes to a new paragraph block. And I'm going to paste in the video here. Paste it in directly, and what WordPress will do is it will then try and embed it directly into the page and do all the code needed for you. You don't have to do anything funky like we did for the Google map here and copy the code, embed it in a little HTML block. No, it does it all for you. So if we just preview that page, we can see that's working as a nice embedded YouTube video. There aren't any options for that. It's really straightforward, really simple. There's not a lot you can do. If you want to maybe have it side by side with the copy, then we can have it in some columns. So we could remove some in there. You could possibly give it a little explanation next door to it. I'll also just very quickly and briefly show you the other options I quite like. In fact, I'll show you in this block here. So the ones I use quite a lot: paragraphs for main paragraph copy, headings, really useful for the main heading number 1, and heading 2, and possibly heading 3. And headings are really useful for breaking up the page content, allowing people to scan down the page. Lists are particularly useful. Let me show you that. So let's make this a list rather than a big block of paragraphs. So we click paragraph there, click list. That's probably too long for a list. So I'm going to split it up into more items. The nice thing about lists is it's great for small blocks of content. It also adds visual interest to the page as well. What other items have we got in here? So we've got code block if you need to show programming. We've got quotes. Quotes are really useful for testimonials. So let's put a testimonial on this page. If we put in quote, we can put "they are fab" from one of their clients. A client. And that testimonial, depending on the theme, is going to show in a certain way. In this theme, we've got 2 controls. We've got default and a large version. I'm going to go for the large version. And I don't want it there. I want it up the top. 2 ways of moving it. I can either drag it using these little drag dots here. So I can drag it around and drop it where I want it. Or I can move these arrows just to fine tune it. Let's preview that. Yeah. I mean, the design isn't the best, but I think it shows how everything works. Images we've looked at. Galleries are particularly useful. Let me just add a gallery down the bottom. In fact, let me just click it here. Media library. Nice about gallery is you can have multiple images all bunched together. So I'm just going to select all of these and that. Create a gallery. I can even drag and drop them around, reposition them. I can add more to the gallery if I want. There we go, but I don't want that one in there. It's created the gallery for me. I can adjust the amount of columns to fit. Yeah, that'll do. And we'll move it down to the bottom, which is where I want it. Let's update the page and view it. Lovely. Probably the worst page I've ever designed. So that's adding video to the page and showing you a few of the other things you can do. What we want to do now is just one more thing, is how to edit the title and meta description of a page, because that's something that's really super important for SEO. So we'll quickly do that on the homepage. So go to the homepage, click on edit. Oh, in fact, I need to add the Yoast plugin, because that's what we use for SEO. So I'm going to go to plugins. I'm going to scoot down to the bottom where Yoast isn't, activate it. And that means it's now all working. So I can go to pages, home, and edit. Now, because I've enabled Yoast, if I scroll down the bottom, I've got this Yoast panel here. Now, there's lots of things you can do in Yoast, and I'm actually going to do another one of these webinars where I walk through my top plugins, of which Yoast is one, and I'll go through this in a bit more detail. But for now, all you need to know, if you want to edit that page title and meta description, you can do it here using this section. Now, by default, it's trying to pull a few things together for you. It's going to pull the title of the page, which is home, not ideal. It's going to put a little separator in there, and then it's going to put your actual site name, which is, in this case, Yellow Jumper Accountants. So let's preview what it does by default. If we go preview, you can see it. If we look at the top on the tab here, it says home - Yellow Jumper Accountants. I think we can do a bit better than that. So what we're going to do is put in something a bit like this. This would be great for a home page. I'm going to get rid of all of that. And I'm going to put in Yellow Jumper Accountants, the best accountants in Cirencester. There we go. And for a meta description, you can just put in any content you want. I'm just going to put in some dummy copy for the moment. There we go. Now you notice it's come up orange. What we can do, what that's telling us is it's too long. We need to cut back. So we can trim off some words until that works. The importance of these two here are the SEO title is really important for optimizing this particular page for a keyword. Look at my other webinars on SEO, either the one I've worked on or the one with Chris, because we talk a lot about how important title is. The meta description, however, is really useful because that's what shows up in search, and it helps convince people to click on it. So you can include lots of information that gives more detail than your title possibly can. You get a little preview of it here. So it shows you what it might look like in mobile and desktop. And then once you're ready, you can update and then click on view page. And we can see that's been updated. Just a few things to finish off and then we're done. So I just want to show you the media library. If you ever need to dive in and edit any of the items you've got in the media library, maybe you've got a lot in here, it needs cleaning out, or you need to add a bulk load of images up front before you do lots of page amends, you can go straight into the media library. You can either drag and drop more items on, or if you want, you can click on a particular item and delete it, move it to the bin. You've also got a lot of features in here if you want to edit the page as well. Edit the image. So I'm going to go into this image, Jumper Man, click on Edit Image at the bottom. And here I might want to select a crop to make it a bit more interesting. So I can drag over the page, click crop, and then I can save that. And then it basically saves a new version of that image that I can use that's cropped. You can also look at the media library in a different way, like this. So it gives you a lot more detail, and it also allows you to sort by the different column headings. You can sort by file, you can sort by who uploaded it. You can even see with Smush here, or if you have another image optimizer, it will probably put it in here, put some extra detail in here. It'll tell you how much that's been compressed by. Also, importantly, it adds alt text. Now, this is particular to our theme. I've made our theme so it adds alt text, this alt text column in here. Every image you have on your website that is on a page should have alt text in it. So this is a really quick way of just scooting down this list to make sure everything is in its place. Now, I'm going to show you one more tip on page, and then I'm going to show you how to add a new user and then change your password. Actually, that's not the best page for it. I think if we go to contact, Yeah, let's say we want to change the ratio of that to better match the map. I can click on this image and I've got an option here to crop, which is great because you can actually crop in line. You don't have to go to the media library. You can actually do it from here. So I can click crop and then I can click here to choose the aspect ratio. If I choose 4:3, that's going to better match the image, the map that I've got. So let's move the image around. I can even scroll in and out just to zoom a little bit to crop it exactly how I want. That'll do. I can rotate the image and many other things in here. That works well for me. When I update and view page, that's a bit better, but we probably want to do more cropping. Okay, 2 final things. How to add a new user and how to change your password. Let's say you need to add a new user in. You've got someone who you're working with and you want them to write the blog post for you. You click on users on the left-hand side. You click on add new, and then you add their name in. So we want to add a new user in. So I'm going to say this, I'm going to add myself in actually. Use my short code to type in the email address there. Oops, sorry. That's it. In fact, what I'll do is I'll put my name in here. Make anything for the username. It's entirely up to you. I tend to just put the full name in. And then the email address. I want to make that person an editor because I don't want them having full permission to everything. And then when I add user, they will get sent an email with a link to reset their password and join. Oh, of course, that already exists in the database because I'm already there. But you won't have that issue because they'll be different. But that's the process you go through. Now, if I want to change my own password, and you can do this pretty much from anywhere on the site, you go up into the top right-hand corner, you click on Edit Profile, and you scroll down to Account Management and Set New Password. It gives you a random one by default, but you can type in your own. When you update, it saves that password, so make sure you remember it. Remember though, if you ever get stuck, you can always do a forgotten password reset. So that's it for the screen sharing. I think we've covered everything. I would like to next time though cover lots of the plugins that can be useful on the site as well. Let's go back to my slides. So thanks for listening through. It's quite nice actually to see a difference in the interface and see how it looks now. It's a lot more polished than it used to be, works a lot faster, and is not quite as buggy as it used to be. So as always, maybe there's something interesting there that you thought, actually, yeah, now I know how to do this in WordPress. I think I can go forward and edit my pages in a different way. So think about one thing you can do over the next 30 days and write it down as a commitment to yourself. And do you tell your friends? If you found this enjoyable, we've got loads more of them. This is the 34th. We've got 33 others, loads of different topics. Tell your friends about it. We get a new one added every month, loads of different topics. I mean, I've covered marketing strategy and its overview. Social media. Jack has done 2 great workshops recently on Facebook and Instagram. Search optimization again with Chris and myself. We've done a few on that. Video with Claire and tons more. Don't forget the audio podcast as well. Our next one is coming up on the 23rd of November and at 1 p.m. I changed the date this time. I'm not sure on the topic, but I think it's either going to look at the WordPress plugins, or I might have a guy I met on LinkedIn who uses Puppets. Could be quite interesting. Who knows? And thanks, Karen. You'll try and use the column function in post sometimes. Yes, but remember, it only works on the new Gutenberg editor. Other editors will have their own column functions. All right. Thank you very much, guys. Sorry, we're slightly over. Enjoy the rest of your day.